Clerk, we are reporting out of closed session. We have two items. First item, 4.1, property matter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, council reporting out of closed session. First item is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Weiss, second. Councillor Gardner, thank you. Comments, questions? Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I can't say much, obviously, but I do want to just publicly voice my opinion that I don't agree with the direction that we're moving in, and you all know why.
Thank you. Seeing none, I'll call a vote or record a vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for the first item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Thompson is absent. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote? Councillor Gardner votes no. Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. Councillor Weiss? Councillor Weiss votes yes. Councillor Kim was absent. Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
And Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gallo votes no. The motion carries.
Okay. Next item. In regards to 271 Holiday Drive.
The second item for council reporting of closed session is a motion to defer the report.
Okay, someone like to move that? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gallo. Comments, questions? Record a vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Mayor Maracus, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Weiss? Councillor Kim was absent. Councillor Thompson was absent. Councillor Gardner? Councillor Gardner votes yes. Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo votes yes. And Councillor Gilliland? Councillor Gilliland votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gilliland, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Clerk's time is 7:03. I'm going to call this general committee meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? The added items. Councillor Gallo. Yep. Let me just get seconder. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gilliland, yes.
Thank you. I was wanting to waive procedural bylaw and submit a motion for council this coming April 25th. I did send it earlier for you to take a look. The reason is that due to part of my motion, it was suggested by staff that it touches the April 25th April cycle in order to facilitate part of that motion to be successful this summer. So I was hoping that my council members would allow me to submit it and include it.
Okay, thank you. So, council, I'm going to add that into the entire. Do you want me to do it separate, Ms. Clerk? No, I can just get 2/3 for the entire thing. We can just save ourselves from doing the second vote. I got a feeling we're going to get 2/3, so we can save ourselves maybe like. So I'm going to roll it in all together with the addition from Councillor Gilliland for waiver procedural bylaw to allow for a notice of motion. So I'm going to need 2/3 on the approval of the agenda. Okay. Everyone's good with that? Is there any comments or questions? No? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations, we have two of them. First up, we have Javed Khan and Mike Smith from the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame regarding FORE, the inaugural Aurora Sports Hall of Fame Golf Classic. Mr. Smith, welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening, Mayor Maracus, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen around the room, and those at home. My name is Mike Smith, for those who don't know me, and along with a good friend of mine, Stu Bundy, I'm the co-chair of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame's Golf Committee. We've never had a golf committee before, so this is new. Today, I'm thrilled to be here to provide you with a little information about our first golf event. And I'd like to invite all counselors, town staff, and golfers to join us. As the Masters has come and gone, many golfers look forward to this time of season. Sadly, because the Leafs probably will be golfing sometime in the near future, but more importantly, because local golf courses open up for the season. In fact, my wife and I played around the corner at St. Andrews Valley this past Sunday, and it was thrilled to be out. It was a thrill to be out there. So on June 21st, the longest day of the year, we are thrilled to present the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame's first annual Celebrity Golf Classic. That's at Pheasant Run Golf Course. This is a public event, so I invite everyone here and those watching us at home to join us for a great day of golf, on-course food, refreshments, and fun. Registration includes your golf, your cart, barbecue dinner, and wrapping up the day with a hot stove round table with some notable Aurora sports celebrities. So we are currently seeking sponsors, foursomes, and single golfers. So to secure your foursome or sponsor our event, just visit us at aurorasportshalloffame.com or Facebook or Instagram pages and click on the registration link. Early bird pricing is May 15th, and I'm pleased to say that we're at 40% sold so far. Net proceeds are raised that will be going back into the community, and we are in discussions with local organizations and charities to donate funds towards future community projects. And a formal announcement in collaboration with these organizations will take place in the near future. Ultimately, I think I speak on behalf of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, and if not, well, I'm winging it. The Aurora Sports Hall of Fame wants to be financially independent, so building a successful golf event, among other things, is going to help us do so in the future. So in closing, it goes without saying that we hope to see you there. By the way, you may want to bring an extra pair of shorts, pants, skirt, or whatever you're comfortable with, just in case you get a hole in one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go Leafs.
Thank you, Mr. Council first, can I get a motion to receive? Councillor Kim, Councillor Weiss, go ahead.
You didn't mention prices or a price. Is it on the website? Do you know what the price per foursome or for
Ron, yeah.
per person?
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so early bird pricing is $250 per golfer. And then after May 15th, it goes to $300. Yeah, $250 to $300 per golfer. And sponsorships, they vary in prices. And it's all on the website. It's all on the link.
Thank you,
Great.
Councillor.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I guess, is this a daytime event?
It's a daytime event. Tee times, shotgun starts at 1 o'clock. And although it's the longest day of the year, this will not be the longest golf event of the year.
Councillor?
Thank you. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's glad to know that at least it's early afternoon, be a wonderful day. I'm so glad to hear that you guys are going outside the box with your fundraising this year, because there's nothing better than golfing on a nice sunny day. So I think that's great.
Councillor, one of the biggest things that I think differentiates us is the celebrity aspect of it. And we're going to have some fun. So it'll be a great day.
Great. Thank you very much. And it is a Wednesday. Is that correct?
It's
Okay. Perfect.
longest day of the year. Hopefully we'll see you there on June 21st.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I'm not a golfer.
Golf.
Okay, maybe I'll be a spectator, but this is a very serious question. The skort,
Yes.
the term skort, you
Yes.
don't look old enough to be able to use that term.
Oh, well, my wife wears a skirt very comfortably. So
I wish you luck.
thank you.
Any other questions for station? Seeing none, Mr. Smith, thank you very much for coming. Look forward to the event. I anticipate it's going to be highly successful and looking forward to the celebrities that will be there that day as well. So thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Next, we have Erin Cerenza and Tim Jones, Neighborhood Network, regarding Neighborhood Network update. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Erin Cerenza, and I'm the manager of community relations for Magna International.
And I'm Tim Jones. I'm a volunteer ambassador with the Neighborhood Network. We are excited to be here tonight to share with you our highlights from 2022 and how we've been working to build better communities in Aurora.
Next, please. And it's actually extra special for us. This was unplanned. My wonderful volunteer ambassador booked this meeting without even realizing it was National Volunteer Week. So very happy and very fitting for Neighborhood Network to be here during National Volunteer Week. As a refresher, Neighborhood Network is a department of Magna International that supports the northern 6 municipalities of York Region by promoting volunteerism, linking resources, and overall supporting local charities and agencies. We've been partnered with the town of Aurora since 2008. In fact, Aurora and Newmarket were our inaugural partner municipalities. That's where it all began. And this Neighborhood Network department really is part of Magna's larger commitment to supporting the communities here and around the world in which our employees live and work. We are a free service for all Aurora residents. We're the town's official volunteer center. And over our last 15 years of serving the community, we've had many highlights. But as Tim said, we're going to take you through specifically 2022. Next, please.
We closed out 2022 with 19,459 active volunteers registered in our system. For some perspective, if each one of those volunteers donated 1 hour of time to the community, that works out to 811 days of volunteering for $301,651 of time donated. Volunteers are truly the powerful driving force in our community. Last year, we had 1,322 new volunteers registered with us. Overall, 18% of our volunteers identify Aurora as their home location. However, we expect this number to be a little higher as some volunteers prefer not to disclose their address when they sign up.
Next. In 2022, Neighborhood Network also supported its partnered municipalities through specific programs and initiatives. We raised almost $43,000 through fundraisers with our colleagues at our Magna corporate head office, and these were all to support local community organizations. Next. Our Magna Hoedown Community Fund program supported 30 local charities, and one of the parameters of this fund is that the charities we select must provide programs and services within that Northern 6 catchment area. So collectively, the 153,000 residents who benefited through those charities were all, again, within our Northern 6 catchment area, and 9 officially, their logos are on the screen, are charities that operate out of Aurora. Next, please. Our holiday gift drive program supported 16 different charities, again, all Northern 6 clients and over 300 individuals. And we also provided holiday gifts to 1,700 local seniors in isolation. Next.
We collaborated with 20 high schools in our catchment area. In Aurora, those schools are specifically Aurora High, Hardin Carter, D.W. Williams, St. Andrews, St. Max, and Renaissance. This collaboration with high schools includes things like presentations for grade 8 and 9 about volunteering, support for grade 12s to ensure they graduate and complete the hours that they're required, coordinating volunteer fairs, and overall helping students and meaningful volunteer opportunities. We provided volunteer opportunities and programs through our own programs and initiatives, resulting in 700 hours earned, volunteer hours earned through the year. We also honored 20 graduating high school students with our Give Back Awards, which is actually in process right now. Our program to celebrate the outstanding volunteer contributions of local students. We had 9 Aurora associated recipients last year, 5 who live in Aurora, and 4 who attend high school in Aurora. And last year's tree planting, we planted 250 trees and shrubs in Aurora.
Next. And last year, we made new connections with 30 different organizations. These are charities, nonprofits, and community groups. And our newest partners that serve Aurora and the surrounding communities are Aurora Black Community, Clerical Place of York Region, the Region of York Quilters Guild, Kids Help Phone, the Firm Voice Foundation. Next. And we also hosted important learning sessions for these registered partner organizations to help provide them with free opportunities to learn about important topics on inclusivity and foster networking and collaboration. Next. And as you can see, it was another busy and successful year for Neighborhood Network. As always, we're grateful to the town of Aurora for your partnership and collaboration. If you want to learn more, visit www.nnetwork.org. And thank you for helping us build better communities together.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive? Councilor Weiss, Councilor Gardner, any questions for the presentation? Councilor Gardner?
Thank you so much. It's very impressive. Is there any way you can get more high school students for their volunteer hours to help seniors with their snow shoveling?
It's a great question. And thank you. We used to run a winter snow removal program exactly to that effect, where we would match high school students with low-income seniors or seniors who have disabilities to provide that shoveling service. What we really found was that the matches weren't as easy to facilitate as we thought. And because of the schedules of the high school students being in high school, when the seniors were requiring that snow shovel service, 8 or 9 in the morning to actually leave their house, the volunteer couldn't actually get there in a timely manner. So even though we had the volunteers when we were able to facilitate connections, it wasn't entirely meeting the need of the seniors. So we did work with town staff a few years ago when we evolved this program and recommended, it's a national charity called Snow Angels, which I believe the town is currently using. And so we do promote the Snow Angels program through Neighborhood Network. And when Access Aurora gets those calls on those snowy days, absolutely, they connect with the Neighborhood Network team, and we do our best to push it out to our volunteer network. But in terms of an official program, we do no longer offer that service.
Thank you very much. It's a big need, but thank you for the Snow Angels connection.
Councilor Weiss?
Yeah, and I want to thank you for coming here tonight and giving us all this good news, but also for the work that you do. And Tim, I recall a conversation 10 or 15 years back where you were one of those pioneers who were really trying to identify the value of the human capital that exists within volunteerism. And it's an important thing. And there's nothing better that people can do than to invest in volunteerism, because it gives you a tremendous return on investment. So I want to thank you both and for the organization for the things you do in this community.
Thanks, Ron. I also commend the staff we work with on the volunteer programs. It doesn't happen alone. It happens because of collaboration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilor Gillen?
Thank you. Year after year, we see you guys come back, and I'm always amazed on what you guys do in our community. So I just really want to keep it short and sweet. Thanks for all you do. Keep it up. We see you in the community. We know what you guys do, and you play an integral part. And, I'm very grateful for that. And so is the community. So thanks so much.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Erin, and thank you very much for coming this evening. Such an easy concept when you think about it, right? When you guys first initially started the program was people need help and people want to help. So why don't we match them? And you guys do a tremendous job doing that, not only in our community, but right across Northern Six. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do for our community. And it's, Tim, I'm going to add a little bit. It's always great to see a former mayor that continues to give back. So I thank you for your service to the town, not only when you were a mayor, but also for the things that you continue to do. So thank you.
You're going to make me cry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for having us.
Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Delegations. First, 6.1, Angela Daust, resident, regarding designation of 30 individual properties under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Angela, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours. Yeah, absolutely. Before we start any time, yeah.
you for allowing me to speak tonight. My husband and I formally object to the designation of 31 Tyler Street in Aurora. If you just have a look at the pictures, you'll see why, the before and afters. This is the reasons we have for our objections. Design and physical value. Our house is not representative of the late two-story dwelling as it was completely rebuilt, not preserved, as every component and every piece of lumber is new from 26 years ago. The back of the house was torn down and rebuilt. The porches are not original. They were built by us. The barge board is recreated, not original. The coach house was rebuilt. All landscaping is new. The original house was 1.5 stories in the back and 2 stories in the front. The new rebuilt house is 3 stories. The house was raised and a new foundation added, which is 4 feet higher than the original. The roof was completely rebuilt, 3 feet higher than the original. All interior wainscoting, stairs, drywall studs, floors, fixtures, and cabinets are new. No original features are left as the house was so derelict that nothing was salvageable. Historical and associative value. Our house is plaqued as the Anne Ransom House, 1872, not the David Rogers house. David Rogers owned the house for only 10 years and did not build it. Also, there was no indoor plumbing or washroom facilities during the time he owned it, so we question whether such a dwelling would have been befitting of a veterinary surgeon counselor. The proximity to the Matchell brickworks further calls this into question. We suspect he lived elsewhere and most likely rented the house at 31 Tyler Street to workers in the area. Indoor plumbing and washroom facilities were not added until after the 1950s, as verified by the previous owner, Don Egan. Contextual value. The majority of historical houses surrounding our house have either been renovated beyond recognition from their original or have been torn down to accommodate a 7-story building at the corner of Tyler and Yonge. The neighborhood is now a mix of 1950s to 60s bungalows, Victorian houses which lack their original architectural features, or relatively new commercial buildings. Also, a proposed development of 70 brand new townhouses will be within 100 feet of our house. We also question why our house was chosen for the designation from the many historical houses on Tyler Street. Number 59 Tyler, for example, is a much older house than ours, is entirely original in its structure, and is associated with Richard Matchell, the founder of Matchell's Corners that would later become Aurora. The house belonged to his son, Edwin. Edwin's son, Walter, started Matchell Brickworks. And yet this house is not on the list to be designated, even though it is surrounded by well-preserved Victorian houses. Other reasons not to designate. Our property is zoned environmental protection by a Simcoe Region Conservation Authority due to the proximity of the stream located on the east side of our property. We could not increase the footprint of the house, nor can any new owner do so in the future. We also rebuilt to the maximum height allowable by the town of Aurora. All systems and structures have been upgraded to modern standards. Therefore, there is no reason to tear down this house. Every real estate agent I have spoken to advises against designating our house. The reasons they give from their experience trying to sell designated houses are lower resale values, higher renovation costs, and higher insurance premiums. Several owners of designated houses that I have spoken to agree with these observations. In conclusion, we formally object to designation of our home. When we purchased this house 26 years ago, nobody from the town of Aurora, the historical board, or any other governing body cared whether we wanted to tear this house down or not. It was derelict, structurally unsound, and unsightly. We decided to rebuild it to look historic, but could easily have torn it down and built something modern without objection from the town. After 26 years of committing our time and money to this house, the town of Aurora now deems it worthy of designation, despite never having offered financial or physical assistance in its rebuild. We are very close to retirement and plan to sell our house in a couple of years. This house has 3 flights of stairs and I suffer from arthritis in my hip, so it is not an ideal home for an aging couple. Designation of this house would negatively impact resale value as confirmed by discussions with seasoned real estate professionals. We have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this home, and as a result, it has become a valuable asset. It has become a nest egg that we are counting on for our retirement. It is not fair to take resale value away from us now just to have another house on your registry. If council decides to move forward with designation, we will fight it with every option available to us. we ask that you make the decision not to designate our house. And also, I would like to add, I'm quite disappointed that the residents were not included in the process when it began 2 years ago. Instead of receiving a letter 30 days before we had to object and basically being blindsided. It was very upsetting. It's been very stressful for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I'll get you to stay, Angela, just in case there's some questions. I don't know yet. So council, can I get a motion first to receive and refer to item 9.1? Councilor Gallo, Councilor Kim, Councilor Gardner, question for the delegate?
Apart from all of the important comments you've made, is there anything original left in your house?
Ms. Daust?
Nothing, not even
Nothing.
the front door.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor. That's it? Thank
That's
you.
it.
Councilor Gilliland?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to the delegate, I just want to say thank you for coming and sharing all your facts. I know we had spoke and you have quite the scrapbook, I have to say. But it does definitely tell a story. And the one that you left, I remember asking, well, why don't you just tear down from scratch and whatever? And it was just your circumstance. But if you don't mind, I thought that was kind of funny, some of the stories with the squirrels.
Oh, yes. And my son was due to be born after our house had been put back down on its foundation, but he decided to come 6 weeks early. So I had to bring a newborn into a house with no foundation in the air.
Councilor?
Thank you. Well, you guys have really done a really nice job on your renovation, and I really do appreciate all your facts that you have brought back. Nobody's perfect, and you know that we did have a lot on the designation list to go
Yes.
through, and perhaps you've done such a good job that we just maybe that's something that was overlooked. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, the only reason we decided to renovate is, first of all, we like old houses and the look of old houses as opposed to the cookie cutter subdivision house. And also we had to live in it while we were renovating. So we needed a place to actually live at the time. So we're rebuilding, really, it was rebuilt. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none, Ms. Daust, thank you very much for coming
Great,
this
thank
evening.
you.
So next, council, we have 6.2, Christine and David Butler. Oh, sorry. All those in favor? While Christine and David are coming up. Opposed, that carries. Christine, David, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Thank you all members of council for taking the time to listen to us tonight. We live at 81 Tyler, have been there for about 22 years. And we received a letter as well about our house being designated. So a couple of points from myself, my wife will share a few as well. Our foundation has at some point failed prior to our purchase, and the previous owner built an interior foundation. So therefore, the entire home cantilevers over the interior foundation, which is exposed to the exterior. In February, our kitchen floor is freezing, and the repair of this is what I feel is cost prohibited. We would have to lift the entire home, pour a new exterior foundation, and lower the house back down onto the foundation. Also, from where we are today in the climate crisis, our home is well over 100 years, 140 years old approximately. It's built with 2x4 construction, therefore allowing an R13 wall insulation versus modern construction, which is a 2x6 exterior wall, an R20 insulation. So that leads to expensive heating costs, consumption of fossil fuels. And then from a more philosophical perspective, I feel that we want the same rights and freedoms as everybody else in the community. The ability to keep our options open. It appears that the town and members of the community want to enjoy our heritage home while we carry the burden of maintaining a 100-year-old home. It just doesn't sit well with me. I too have spoken to many realtors in the community, both Aurora and Newmarket. I do know many. All of them expressed an interest to avoid getting your house designated at all costs. We unfortunately, we are not interested in having our home designated heritage. It just reduces our options, and I just don't feel that's fair.
The only thing I'd like to just add is that, well, we love our home. We fell in love with it when we first saw it, and we have enjoyed living in Aurora for the time that we've been here. And to be honest, it has curb appeal, and that's why we liked it. And I think that's part of why it might stand out. So definitely when we think about the historic nature of things, its architecture it's Gothic revival. It has that for sure. And then when we go through the other aspects of the Heritage Planning Act, in terms of historical associative value, there is, there's stories about the two families that one bought the property and the other one built the home and so on. And both fellows were named George. And so according to the information that was in the letter that came to us, they said, this is why George Street was named. But when we moved in, we had our neighbor down the street, Jacqueline Stewart, presented us with this storybook of the neighborhood. And just going through her research, she mentioned that the street was actually named about 12 years prior to the purchase by the Georges, purchase and build by the Georges. So in terms of that, it's a little bit dubious. Like, I think we would have to do a little bit more research to see how accurate that is. And then the last part in terms of the historical and contextual nature of the neighborhood and how our house contributes. Yes, we do have some historic and older homes within our block, our small block. But if we look at the larger block, like all the way down Tyler and across George, many of the homes since we moved there have been replaced, so torn down and replaced by newer ones. So although there might be some older ones like within like two neighbors, the rest of the neighborhood has been lost. So again, it depends on the scale that you're looking at, but I'm not sure that it adds enough to what you need to. So that's the only thing that I would like to say.
Yeah, and the only other thing I did reach out to all members on council and heard back from many. I had a great chat with Tom, and I'd like to extend my congratulations on the progress of this. I didn't understand that there were, 300, 400 plus homes that were, quote, in limbo, and that has been reduced to 30. So I commend those efforts. It was good to hear that. So thank you.
Thank you. Council, motion to receive and refer 9.1. Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gillen, any questions for the delegate? Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak. And I also had the pleasure of speaking to you on the phone as well and talked about your greening and your foundation as well. And you guys have done a lot of great work to your home. So I really do value that, and special that you have this book from Jacqueline Stewart to kind of clarify some of the storytelling, and that's very valuable. I just wanted to know, how long have you lived in your house for again? I didn't think you mentioned it in your delegation.
23.
23
years. Yeah.
23 years. All right. That's sorry. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to delegate. That's great. So it's nice to know you've seen the change and the evolution. And I do agree, you are surrounded by a lot of homes that have been torn down and rebuilt. And there's some of that to take in consideration. And I do appreciate all the detailed notes that you've, provided in your delegation today. That's going to help us make our decision. Thanks.
Thanks.
Councillor Gardner.
Hi, thank you for coming. I'm not clear, you're talking about the kind of house we all want to have, which is a very energy efficient home. But are you going to try and make this home energy efficient? Are you going to tear it down? Are you going to sell it? Like, I don't know where the energy efficiency comes in with this house.
Dave.
Yeah, I think the philosophical perspective is it's my right to have the freedom to choose what I want to do in the future. So whether I want to change it to an energy efficient home, I want to convert it, I want to tear down and rebuild, it's about having the same freedom that you have with your house. That by way of council's decision is going to restrict my freedoms. And from a philosophical perspective, I don't agree with that. But I think it's having the right to At this point, we're probably not. I think it's cost prohibitive to change the energy efficiency composition of our house.
Counselor?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, David, Christine, thank you very much for coming. And you are correct, you do have great curb appeal. So
Thank you.
all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Next, 6.3, Reverend Father Florian, resident regarding item 9.1. Welcome. Good evening. 5 minutes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the Town Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak in front of you all this evening. Allow me to introduce the people that are here with me tonight from the Parish Council and the Board of Directors from our charity, Holy Forty Martyrs Church, Mr. Nick Popa, Mr. Bogdan Korobla, and Mrs. Diana Nekula. Yeah, it was a shock for us as well, especially because we have this property since 2011. We bought it from Lions Club, and we've invested so much in this building. I trust you all have received our notice of objection in regards to designation of the church's building. 33 Mosley Street is the address. We strongly oppose for this process to take place for the reasons already stipulated in the letter. In addition to that, I would like to mention a few things here. We had a virtual meeting with Mr. Adam Robb and Ms. Patricia Desario. Thank you. And our lawyer was present as well, Mr. Livikan, I know from BLG. I asked a question, if you remember, what are the reasons behind this action? Why now? And I think the answer I got from Mr. Robb was to protect the building from demolition. My following question was, who wants to demolish our church? I would like to know if there are perpetrators in the neighborhood, if that happened to someone, I don't know. We have the right to know if our church is in danger, is a peril to be demolished. We certainly do not have these intentions. Let me state that from the start. We have consecrated this building to God. What does that mean? We sanctified the church, both interior and the exterior. Okay, you cannot separate. One side of the wall is yours and one side of the wall is mine. I'm not comfortable with that. Not only from philosophical perspective, as my they're not here anymore, but yeah, it was an interesting point of view. So this church is not going anywhere. There are not many things left except for that chimney that hasn't any purpose right now in the front. It's just for decoration purposes, as far as I'm concerned. But you are talking here with the Orthodox Church. That is probably, if not the most conservative church on this planet. We honor our ancestors. We have saints. The calendar is full of saints. We had a situation in Saskatchewan where there are no parishioners left. We are maintaining those buildings because there are hundreds of people, hundreds of Christians buried there. We honor the memory. So it was kind of, you're trying to protect the building from whom? All right. We have spent so far close to $1 million to get this building in shape and maintaining. Who then? Are we what we can be called a threatened property, a term used in the Ontario Heritage Toolkit for designated heritage properties to name a property subject to demolition or alteration? I think that's not the case. That's the document I'm talking about. I think you are all familiar with it, right? Now that we have established that in the same document above mentioned, page 9 under designation on the property owner, it says the property owner is a key player in the designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. As early as possible in the process, designation should be discussed with owners to ensure that they are actively engaged in the process. How early in the process would you say we are right now? Not that anyone has asked us to be involved. We have been served. That's about it. So we are not comfortable with the situation and we are strongly opposed. If your intentions are purely to protect this building, come and see what we've done. Come and see if this building needs protection, or if you decide that is in good hands, then please stop this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to item 9.1? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gallo, Councillor Weiss.
Father Florian, thank you. I've been the recipient of your hospitality and your generosity. I've visited the church.
It was our pleasure.
There's no question in my mind that it's a house of God and that your intentions are to stay in there. The work that you've done on the inside of the building is a testament of your commitment. And I met many of your parishioners, so I appreciate you coming here tonight and thank you very much for enlightening us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you for coming. I know this building very well because we did a Friday night drop-in hotspot for many years. And I was very curious. I came, I don't believe you were there, and I had a look around. You've done a lot of great work to the building. It looks wonderful.
It's still a work in progress. We're not done yet.
Anyway, thank you for buying the building and cherishing it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions for the delegate? Councillor Weiss, second time.
I just wanted to thank you for the invitation. I met the Archbishop, and the Archbishop is from Aurora,
Exactly.
Illinois.
Yeah.
So it was a great event that you had and an anniversary of the feast. So thanks very much for that.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming this evening. I hope to come and actually enjoy and visit. I would love to come by at some point. Absolutely. And I hope you enjoyed your Orthodox Easter celebrations. Very good. I went over to my parents' house and had lamb, but that's a different story, but we'll talk. We'll talk. I'll come by and I'll see you. So absolutely. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 6.4, Alexander Papadimitropoulos. Come on, I got it wrong? I thought I got it right. Okay, I got it. I got a little bit. Okay. Floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing me to be here today. My name is Alex Papadimitropoulos, as we just established. That's my wife, Shauna, who's 7 and a bit months pregnant behind me. We're the owners of 71 Tyler Street. So we're 3 doors away from Mr. and Miss Butler, and I think we're 4 doors away from Miss Daust, smack dab in the middle. Today, we're one of 4 groups, but I think we're one of 7 groups as a whole who are objecting to having our properties included in the town's plan to designate as part of the Ontario Heritage Act. The designation of our home as a heritage property would have real consequences for us. We didn't buy the house 20 or 40 years ago. We bought the house 2 years ago. And so we bought at the top of the market. It's all we can afford. We can't afford increased insurance payments. We really can't get more into it. But that's what would happen, right? First, we'd see a significant increase in the cost of our insurance. We moved from the east side of Aurora to the west side of Aurora 2 years ago. Our insurance went up by 3 times already. Having another hike would hurt. Second, it would make it more difficult and expensive to change things on the house. We've already made significant investments in the home. We spent over $100,000 on renovations in these 2 years. We're proud of the work we've done. We think that our home is an asset to the community. We don't want to change it, demolish it, get rid of it, but we do want to sort of protect our rights, like Mr. and Ms. Butler said. And then lastly, it would affect our ability to sell the home in the future. We do know that the value of the home would go down. This is our biggest, and really it's our only asset, right? All of our money is dumped into this house. As we raise a family and we need to move on, we don't want to take a huge loss. Lastly, just about the process and about the specific proposal for our home. Nearly all of the attributes listed about our home are just incorrect, right? And so this is really, really frustrating on my end. The home's been modified. It's gone through a bunch of renovations, most recently 2 years ago before we purchased it. But just a quick list. Our home is a 2-story building, not a 1.5-story building. I think the pictures in your documents are really, really misleading. If you look at the home from the back, you can see it's actually a full 2 stories. Our home is largely covered in siding, not yellow brick. And so again, the documents say that the yellow brick has to be protected. It covers less than a third of our home. Not to mention that yellow brick is actually really, really degraded. So the last property owner sandblasted paint off of it and just completely ruined it. It's just worth noting that it's not preservable. Our window openings are not arched. They're not 2x2. Our sills are not made of brick. The windows are not original. They're not made of wood. The doors are not original. They're not made of wood. The porch is not original. Other than the roof line being cross-gabled, like nothing is accurate. And so again, it's just really, really frustrating to get that document, to read it and say, what are we going to have to replace half our home to bring it up to the standards the town thinks need to be preserved? So we understand the town's trying to preserve its heritage. We just believe this designation, it's not in the best interests of our property. We're not going to be able to afford to keep it up or even stay in the home. It's definitely not in our best interest as property owners. And so we're asking you to withdraw for our home. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to item 9.1? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Gilliland. Questions, Councillor Gardner.
Again, thank you for coming. It was interesting when I read the information that there seems to have been so much changed in your house.
Since we've moved into the house, we changed the windows. The windows didn't open. They were painted shut 150-year-old windows. And so we changed those. But again, like
the exterior,
exterior is like there's the front fascia of the house is yellow damaged brick. And if anybody came to the house and took a look at it, you'd see all the mortar joints are like decrepit and falling apart. It needs a lot of work, right? One day we might need to put siding on it if we want the house to look presentable and be able to sort of afford it, right? I didn't mention it, but our basement leaks. I had 30 gallons of water come into our basement this spring and had to shop vac it out of there. Again, like there's work to be done in this house, and I'm not sure that we can do it to the standard that this would.
Thank you. I was part of this committee and I've been part of the Heritage Advisory Committee. So I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at if the house is original or has a lot of original features in it. I think the house is now a 2-story house.
Yeah, the house is a 2-story.
Yeah.
Again, it's misleading from like the one picture I think that's in the document is of the original part of the house. But if please come over, we'll host you. Come over, take a look at the actual home. It's not a 1.5-story brick dwelling. It just is.
Yes, I find that's interesting.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for your
this evening.
time.
All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council will jump right to items requiring discussion. First one is 9.1. Council, before I ask for a mover and a seconder, I would recommend that we withdraw the 8 objections from the list and then move forward from that perspective and do it in one shot. And if everyone's okay with that, then I would ask for someone to move that as part of the recommendation. The 8 objections, that we withdraw them and then move forward with the rest. No? Okay. Is that, I mean, I'm open to what anyone wants to do at this point. I'm just making a recommendation that we at least remove the 8 objections. You want to move? Yeah. So essentially what we're doing is we're moving forward with the recommendation, and we put in that the 8 properties whose notice of intent to designate or those have been withdrawn. Yeah, I'm getting it a mover and a seconder, Councillor. I'm asking, there's 8 objections to 30 properties. I'm asking that we remove all in one shot the 8 objections from being designated, and we continue as with the recommendation. It's correct. Counselor, I'm giving a recommendation. You don't have to take it. I just need a mover and a seconder. Okay, that's fine, Counselor. Here, I'll read as I do all the time. The recommendation is that report number PDS 23-040 be received. 2, that for the properties whose notice of intent to designate has been withdrawn, council authorized staff to A, issue the respective notices of withdrawal, and B, remove the respective properties from the town's heritage register in accordance with the provisions of Bill 23 in the Ontario Heritage Act. And 3, that for the properties where the notice of intent designate has not been withdrawn, that the appropriate designation bylaws be brought back for enactment. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, second. Councillor Kim. Now, Councillor, my recommendation is putting in the specific that 8 of them would be withdrawn, where right now it does not state how many would be withdrawn. That was my recommendation. So I will take that as a friendly amendment if someone wants to add in the 8 properties. If not, we will just continue with what's on the floor. You'll move the 8. So we'll put in the specific 8 as withdraw. That's, yeah. Okay. Someone, you're good with that? Who was the mover and seconder? You guys are good with that? Is it friendly? Okay. So if you can get that on the screen as we go through. Okay, Councillor Gardner, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't realize we were already discussing number 1. There are some homes on this list that I think are absolutely worth a heritage designation. I think they are St. Andrews College. I think that's a very important one. I think that, I think 33 Mosley is very important to the town. And I also think that 15800, oh, that's SAC. Okay, let me just give you my list. So I think that 16 Reuben is worthy of staying on the list. 33 Mosley. Definitely not 31 Tyler or 71 Tyler. 41 Wellington, I think, is again absolutely worthy of staying on the list. I don't think that the Vandorf property is, and I said SAC is. These are important structures in our community, and I mean, heritage is about preserving things that are important to the past. It's, you know, there was a time when we lost a lot of heritage properties because nobody understood the value. People understand the value now, and I believe that the properties I mentioned should absolutely be protected by the town of Aurora. Having a little trouble with 81 Tyler. You know, heritage is, I'm sorry, if you're sitting from a heritage point of view, as this council is supposed to be doing right now, it's not about money. It's about protecting the heritage. And your situation is a little bit in between that. So, and I can't quite understand your circumstance. If you're going to, anyway, I can't quite understand your circumstance. That's why I'm having a little bit of trouble with this about you selling the house or tearing it down or whatever you're going to do to it. Because it is actually a lovely house, and I think it is worthy of designation. Anyway, I'll listen to what the rest of council says, but we are sitting now basically as a heritage committee. And I think that some mistakes were made in, or perhaps not enough work was done. In some instances, I don't have any idea how Miss Daust's house ended up on this list because there's nothing original in it. But I think there are some homes on this list or buildings that are absolutely important to the town's history and need to be preserved.
Councillor Gallagher, just before I go to you, I'm just going to let all of council know that even though it says the 8 properties, if we do move forward with this, they will be individually listed. So everyone knows which ones were removed. Okay. Just so when everyone's looking at the screen, they will be listed individually, but for right now, it just says 8 properties. Okay. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramon or whomever else can answer. Can we just step back a moment and from staff perspective, describe what we're doing, but more so the difference between what we currently have as properties that are listed and moving towards properties that are plaqued, and what we're proposing to do now. From a town perspective, why would we be doing this?
Mr. Ramon.
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, and I can ask Adam Robb, our senior planner, also responsible for heritage matters, to step in as well. I'll just provide a bit of background with respect to how we got to this point. As I think most of the council is aware, we had an enormous list of properties that were listed, identified as having some heritage significance on our heritage registrar throughout the years, dating back from the 70s. Back in 2020, council directed staff to retain, and we hired a consultant to undertake a comprehensive review of the listed properties within that heritage registrar. We consulted with the Heritage Advisory Committee. That heritage review was approved by council this June of 2022. And within that report, of the 360 homes on the list, 57 were identified to be removed from the list, and they were. 287 were to remain on list, and 30 properties, all of them are listed in this report, were identified as having or being warranted to proceed to be designated under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. Reviews were done of each of those 30 properties. So at this point, we are following through with the council direction from June, where we then we prepared a notice of intent to designate. Those were sent out, I believe, over a month ago to the individual property owners of each of those 30 properties. The process involved then under the Ontario Heritage Act is we have now received out of the 30, the eight letters of objection to the notices of intent to designate. We've heard from 4 of the delegates this evening. So before council, we have identified within the recommendations, the options available to council. Essentially 2, council can direct staff to remove those individual 8 properties, which is on the draft motion in front of us, to remove those from the heritage list and to proceed with the remaining 22. What we would do then is we would follow up with heritage designation bylaws that would be brought for those 22 properties, if that's the case, to a future council meeting for passing. And at that point, those notices the official notices would go to those 22 properties, and they would also have an opportunity to appeal that decision to the tribunal. But with respect to those 22 properties, I think staff, or Adam, who has been responsible for issuing these notices, has just had discussions with the majority of those owners. Some of them are fine with proceeding to designation. Others were not aware of the process. The process was explained to them, and we haven't received notices of objection from all of them. It's just these 8. So again, we're just following up with the recommendations from our consultants report back in June to proceed with the 30 properties.
Councilor.
Thank you. And that's a good summary, and I think it's important to hear that. What I'd also try to better understand is these properties are currently listed as well as many others. Jumping from a listed property to a designated property, from the town perspective and from the landowner perspective, what is the difference?
Mr. Rob, did you want to answer that one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly speak to that. So as you said, all the 8 properties that we are here discussing tonight are listed. The biggest difference, as mentioned by the delegation, is that designation is a form of demolition control. It also is a form of alteration control, whereas any alterations to the property have to go through heritage permit approval first. That goes to our Heritage Advisory Committee and goes to council as well for approval. The additional factor too is that come January 1st, 2025, under Bill 23, recent amendments to the Ontario Heritage Act have all listed properties currently on the town's heritage register being automatically removed effective that date. Designation is a way to get ahead of that and make sure no properties are lost.
Councilor.
Thank you. And that's all in the report, but I thought it was important to get that out there. So if come 2025 and we don't designate, all of those properties would basically be like every other property in the town, and wouldn't if they want to renovate, they go through the normal process that everyone else would go through.
Correct.
This is the one step that is pretty significant, and we better be sure what we're doing before we would designate a property. My initial perspective was that, you know, some of these are pretty important, like St. Andrews College, and probably two that I would consider to take a look at, and is also Mosley, 33 Mosley. However, I don't think St. Andrews College is going anywhere, and I suspect the church isn't going anywhere. And to put this additional onus on them, the others, I don't have an issue with removing them. To put an additional onus on them, I'm not comfortable with. If one of those were a home and not in a public realm, perhaps I would be seeing something different, because the chances of changing that would be much more significant and probably would happen as opposed to a St. Andrews College or a church. So that's kind of where I sit right now. I'd love to hear everyone else's perspective.
Thank you, Councilor Gallo. Councilor Weiss.
Thank you. My concern with the removal is, again, what happens tonight when we pull these 8? Where do they reside? If we're taking the 8 out tonight and we're going to move forward with the 22 as a bylaw, what happens now with the 8? Probably through you, Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno.
So I mean, I can answer that, but if Mr. Rob wants to, I mean, so they would sit on the list, the list, and then once Bill 23 is enacted, as far as 2025, I believe you said, Mr. Rob, then they would just be off the list. Anything that is listed would just be deemed gone. Like it would just be a regular property. Is that correct, Mr. Rob? If you want to add on to that?
Yeah, so additional thing, which is up on the screen under number 2, though, once a notice of intention to designate is issued and a bylaw is not passed or a withdrawal occurs, the property automatically has to be removed from the act. And this is due to Bill 23 as well, knowing that impending deadline.
Councilor.
So after this, there is no opportunity for us to be discriminatory about individual properties on that list of 8.
Right.
Agreeing with Councillor Gallo, there are a couple of them for sure that, and I've spoken to the people at SAC. They've been here for 100 years, and they have no intention in doing anything. Their property has been approved by $70 million in a variety of other ways that aren't heritage related, yet they've maintained the heritage value of those properties that are there. So I don't believe that they need to be changed. And in fact, I think they would be very, they would have a lot of questions about that. I also have a difficulty in the retroactivity of this. Many of the residents have bought those homes. I bought a home in what was considered to be a heritage district. And we had a choice at that point to join and become a heritage district and have that done. And we chose not to do it for many of the reasons that these folks have. And it seems like we're interfering with property rights of individuals to do that on behalf of heritage. And I have no doubt that they have some heritage value, but it's a matter of what we're doing with individuals in terms of the designation. I want to ask a question because it's come up twice here about, and we've had this issue a number of times through you, Mayor, to Mr. Remuno. The Heritage Act describes this partnership that is supposed to be enforced and participating with the property owner. And I've heard today that they've received information 30 days ago that they've been designated, and that's quite an upsetting thing for someone. And it doesn't show that there's a real partnership that's been developed here to discuss many of these as has been done here. So I want to know if through you to Mr. Remuno, what the Heritage Act states in terms of communication to people to make sure that we're not violating something there. Could you enlighten me a bit on that?
Mr. Remuno?
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, with respect to the notification under the Heritage Act, I mean, we have followed that official process. And again, the first step would have been issuing of the notice of the intent to designate, which the residents would have received a couple of weeks ago. That was based on the council direction and the adoption of the report back in June of 2022. Unfortunately, at that time, notices, those individuals would not have been individually notified of that. The Heritage review process was a public process. There were a number of committee and council meetings and Heritage advisory committees that were held. The committee was consulted with. I wasn't here when this project started in 2020, but just based on our research, it wasn't practical to submit individual mailouts to all those properties that were within our register, the 400 or 500 properties. So unfortunately, the first notice that these individual homeowners would have received with respect to specifically the intent to designate would have been the recent notice that was sent out a few weeks ago.
Councilor?
Thank you. So pending the outcome of this, since this is a committee meeting, this will go to when will we see this at council for final
Next week.
approval?
Next week.
Next week? Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not in favor of designating any of these homes. In the 8.5 years that I've been on council, I could never understand how a group of volunteers or council or staff could designate someone's home without their knowledge or giving them 30, 60 days notice. I would be aghast if someone designated my house. Mind you, I just live in a typical suburban home that's not worthy of designation, but I'd be pretty upset if someone designated my house one morning. I understand the value of preserving history, but preserving history is a partnership. The common outcomes that I have read is that if you force a designation, the homeowner could very well just let the home be dilapidated. A lot of the secondary improvements that's been made over the years by previous owners may not have been the same quality of material, could deteriorate faster, and really if we truly wanted to designate a property for its historical value, I think we would just leave the home alone to the owners and let them take care of it as it sees fit. Because technically, if we designated, the homeowner can just leave it dilapidated, and eventually, mind you, it might take decades, it just disintegrate. And what would be the purpose of us designating several decades earlier? Preserving is a partnership, and the best way to do that is to partner with the homeowner and not force a homeowner to well, we can't force the homeowner to do anything, but designating is, I think it's just philosophically wrong. I know I've heard about, the market values and so forth. And, in fairness to looking at both sides, I've read, a few market reports that state that designating doesn't really impact and isn't incongruent with the, the ambient market trends. And often designated homes sell for, 74, 75% greater than what the market is bearing at that time. But that said, it doesn't talk about the stress that a homeowner goes through, because in reality, when you make a home inflexible to any kind of change, you would think that that would impact the market value. So in case my fellow council members are not on side with me, I just want to, put aside some of your concerns about the market values, because the actual reports are not in agreement with that. But that said, I still believe in freedom of the homeowner to do what they see fit with the property. And just lastly, as an illustration, if I purchased a 67 Chevy or 61 Mustang, and an association of antique cars designated my car as a heritage value, I'd be pretty upset there as well. I'd probably drive it to the ground, drive to Vancouver and back 7 times for no other reason than to spite the Antique Association. So I'm against designating these homes and any homes that come to this council. And I think I'll be consistent with that regardless of the circumstances, unless it's a John A. McDonald home. And even that, I'd be kind of, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Muno or Mr. Rob. Thinking about the St. Andrews property, there are buildings on that property, at least one, that would certainly be significant of designation. Thinking about looking at this again and thinking about the whole property, that doesn't really make sense. Is it possible between now and next week to speak to St. Andrews and see if they would consider designation of any of their buildings? Because they are very, it's an old college and it's important.
Rob?
Thank you. With respect to Tyler.
Answer for you, Councillor?
Yes, I saw his answer, but I'll wait for the verbal.
Sounds good. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the St. Andrews property itself is unique, as you mentioned, has multiple buildings on it. What you will see in the issued notice of intention to designate, under the description of heritage attributes, it breaks down each of those buildings. The Memorial Chapel, the Sifton House, Dunlap Hall. So those are what's actually codified in the bylaw as elements worth preserving.
So it's not the actual property itself.
The bylaw gets registered on title and runs with the property, but the actual elements are then codified in the bylaw.
Thank you. And with respect to 81 Tyler, I think because the street has been unfortunately not been given the respect that it's due, and there's been so much change, then I think that 81 Tyler should be taken off. All of the 3 houses on Tyler should be off the list. But I still think that 41 Wellington East is just beautiful heritage structure. It would be a terrible shame to lose, for the town to lose that building. As with 33 Mosley and 16 Reuben. So I certainly can't agree to taking those off the list.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Could I just get confirmation on the balance of the 30 that are slated to be designated? How many of those have we heard from?
So the remaining 22, Mr. Rob.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be the vast majority. I would speculate a guess close to the 20 mark of the 22.
Councillor.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, have they agreed to this kind of in writing so that we're very clear that they're on board?
Mr. Rob.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not an agreement in writing. So a number of questions came through to me about the process, which I explained to them what designation means. By virtue of not submitting a notice of objection, though, this is their opportunity to submit that objection and be heard through that process. And by virtue of not submitting an objection, they've had that opportunity. And I would say that's the process.
Councillor.
Yeah, I have some issues with that as well, because I suspect maybe even some of them don't even know. And we're doing something pretty significant to their properties. I think we should have a fail-safe that we get something in writing to them that they know exactly what we're doing to their property. It's spelt out. Get something signed from them saying they know exactly what we're doing to their property. I think we should be doing that. I suspect some of them either aren't clear, and if we haven't heard from some of them, they need to know.
Councillor, I was just going to ask Mr. Rob, is there any way by next week that maybe you can contact the remaining 22 and at least get confirmation that they have no objection to moving forward?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Again, notice of intention to designate was served on each property owner through mail. Notice was published on our website as well as in the paper. And I have had conversations with the majority of them. I can try my best, but yeah.
Can we at least try for next week? So
Certainly.
I think it would bring a level of comfort to some councillors.
Yeah.
Is that fair, councillor?
Yeah, I would need that. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would support even those until I hear back from them.
Thank you. Councillor Reese.
I just wanted to restate the importance from St. Andrews, because I've spoken to them and they've been good stewards of that property for 100 years, and they intend to be stewards of that property for another 100 years. And they value the historical importance of it, not only to this town, but also for themselves. They pride themselves on the historic nature of their institution. And so I have no doubt in my mind that they're probably one of our more staunch stewards of heritage here. So, and I also think that they would object completely, and you will see them here with another delegation next week with it, because it's just in their DNA to take care of the history of that property. I don't know if there's a way to separate some of these out, because in my mind, there are, as Councillor Gartner says, there are some that have significant historical value, but we've been lumped into a group of 8. And maybe there's 5 and 3 or 4 and 4. And we're being asked, as I think Councillor Gala was alluding to, that we're being put into a circumstance that affects people's lives that we're really not comfortable with. So I'm really concerned about voting 8 on the island and off the island, and it just doesn't seem to be a great process for me right now. And I don't know if the clerk has a way through this or around this to make the change, because I'm just not comfortable with this process that we have here. We're dealing with people's lives and their livelihoods and their assets, I just heard them today, and I think it's important. So through you, Mayor, is there a way to identify a group of people or a group of these items that seem to have significant historical value. I appreciate what Mr. Robb has done and what Mr. Ramuno has done according to their responsibilities as heritage planners, and I appreciate the work that they've done. And I don't want to suggest it's not correct, but I just don't feel comfortable with the 8 all coming on or 8 all coming off. So,
Mr. Romero?
To you, Mr. Mayor, one suggestion I have is just with respect to the evaluation criteria. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for us to go back, considering all 30 properties were evaluated by our consultants, consulted with the Heritage Advisory Committee, and we reported back to council in June. Under the Heritage Act and the regulation, all 30 properties were identified as meeting a number of those criteria to warrant designation. So my suggestion is, based on the recommendations in the report or the options in the report, if council does want to proceed with removing the 8 properties from the notice of from the intent to designate, because we are under some timelines with respect to the Ontario Heritage Act, since we've issued the notices of intent to designate for the 30 properties. We have until June. So if council wants to, if it's a desire of council to remove those 8 properties, they will then, we will remove the notice of intent to designate from those 8 properties. The balance of the 22 properties, what we can do then is we can reach out again just to confirm with those 22 individual property owners that they do understand the intent of that notice and the next steps. And that way, once we do get confirmation from those 22, we can then report back to council with the remaining bylaws and with the status of where those 22 property owners stand with respect to the notice of intent to designate. But again, my suggestion here is it'd be a challenge for us now to go back and try and reevaluate these 8 properties. I think that has been done. If council wants to adopt that recommendation in a report, or the option with respect to removing the 8 properties, based on our review, we've heard from 4 delegations. The other 4 properties that didn't delegate this evening, Adam has spoken to the 4. I've spoken to, or they've called me, the St. Andrews College, and I think the similar, we've heard some similar thoughts from all 8 property owners, similar to what you've heard this evening. The majority of the property owners, want to remain in their homes. They don't have any intentions to alter or demolish their homes. We've heard that from the church and a number of the other property owners, and it's similar thoughts that we've heard from the St. Andrews College as well.
Counselor? Council, just to remind everyone too, when the bylaw does come with 22, if we do move forward with this, we at that moment in time, if there happens to be an objection, or we happen to hear from one of the residents at that time, which would be closer to that June date, maybe in May by the time that bylaw, we could still remove at that point as well. So just because if we pass this next week, it doesn't mean that those 22 are automatically going to be designated. We still have an opportunity to still have conversations with the residents. Okay. Just want to make sure everyone's still aware of that. Okay. So everyone knows what we're doing. We're removing 8 properties that are objecting, and we're moving forward with the 22. All those in favor? Oh, which would you like me to call separately? Each individually? Okay. Number 1, which is to receive. All those in favor? Opposed? This is just to receive, Councillor. You asked me to call each. Clerk's telling me I can't do that. The clause is 1. Even if we individually mentioned each one, it's still 1 clause. So I can't call each of the properties separately in a vote. Would you like me to pull the clause? No. Okay. So I'm going to do all of them together. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, everyone. You're more than welcome to stay. Okay, Council 9.2, Pickleball Opportunities 2023. The recommendations that report number CMS 23-016 be received. 2, that the sports field and park use policy be amended to reflect the proposed alternative use for dedicated outdoor pickleball courts. And 3, that council approve options 1B and option 2 for implementation and to be funded from operating budget. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, second by Councillor Weiss. Comments, questions on this one? Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. Could I just get some clarity on page 214 under option 2, delegating court time? It's on the next page. The last actual point, it says add new drop-in play at all shared tennis pickleball courts shall be on a first come first serve basis, utilizing the paddle method for pickleball and the hour for tennis. I foresee some issues with that. If there are tennis players coming to that court to play, and there are pickleball players coming to that court to play, how do we foresee that working? If a tennis player is going to be coming after a pickleball game, because I'm not even sure how long a pickleball game is.
Mr. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I hear what you're saying. Certainly on the courts where we're dedicating time, that's a little bit easier, streamlined. It's much more clear. Where it is first come, first serve, and to your point, who shows up starts the play and then the rotation begins from there. It can be difficult. I recognize that. I think it's the challenge, clarifying in pickleball, I believe it's 11 rounds that clarifies a game. So it's not an hour, it's a duration for that particular game. So on the hour might be difficult. I recognize that, but we had to come up with some method, at least to attempt to balance the needs of pickleball, because on the hour definitely doesn't work for that sport. And yet a paddle method doesn't work for tennis, but it's a shared court. So the alternative would be to identify dedicated court times on all of our shared lined properties, and that would simplify it.
Councillor? Just as confusing as it was.
Yeah, it would simplify it, but I don't think that would serve the community very well. It's obviously, it's something new. I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned about, and although I haven't played tennis for a few years, I know that was very difficult to get courts to play tennis. And doing this obviously is going to make it difficult. And there may be a whole bunch of shifting that's happened. And I know we're just doing a lot of testing to figure out the landscape. I really just don't want a whole bunch of tennis players to come in here midsummer and say, what'd you do? You know, I can't find a court. And maybe this has solved some of the issues. I believe we're creating some issues as a result of this. I don't know. But I'm the only area that I was concerned about was that one there, that there's going to be some issues on those courts. And it's the last thing we want to really create. But I'd love to hear others if I'm getting it wrong.
Good point, Councillor. I mean, we want to solve it, but we don't want to create other issues. So, yeah. Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. I want to thank Ms. McDougall and the work that she's done on this in a pretty short time period. I know it's difficult to do that. I was out at the SARC today and I saw 4 brand new pickleball courts in there. Mr. DeMarco is in the 3 meetings that we had with the pickleballers, and he took copious notes and he took them back accurately to try to resolve the paddle and the things that Councillor Gallo were talking about, because it's an issue, and it's been an issue in every other community where pickleball has come in and kind of usurped some of the time and of tennis players who are equally as passionate about their game. So it's a very difficult rope to walk on. So I want to thank you and your staff for doing the work at very short time period. And we have some solutions here that are short term, and we look forward to the results of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that will have some pickleball in it. So I just didn't want that to go unrecognized. So thanks very much for the work that you've done, Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to echo all the hard work again through you, Mr. Mayor, and Ms. McDougall and your staff, and also Councillor Weiss and all the people that came together to form that working group to give feedback, because clearly I think it kind of helped us identify what we could do for a quick win, as we've been talking about, and obviously establishing some long-term goals for the Parks and Rec Master Plan. Through this process, just for comfort for Councillor Gallo as well, we did have Bill Marin from Total Tennis, who was part of these working groups as well, who was supportive in the sense of collaborating and how it can work, but may not be the permanent solution. And recognizing that, I know that we have increased a lot of indoor courts, which is fantastic with the SARC and the Aurora Family Leisure Complex. However, it doesn't really exclude the fact that we still need more midterm outdoor courts for people to play in, because that demand is there as well. And I did notice in the report that there was an ask for a suggestion that if we wanted to explore some stakeholders, private property, that perhaps some direction would be required on that. And we have reached out to Smart Centers in Desjardins and well, at least Smart Centers, and there's some pre-work that has to be done, and perhaps, there is opportunity for some midterm progress for outdoor pickleball courts. And there could be some opportunity there that I wouldn't want to just leave on the table without at least investigating that. And the town does have a pretty good relationship, I think, with Desjardins now, and they're in a good stewardship with the town, good partnership, and perhaps that there's some opportunity. And so, through Mr. Mayor, I would like to be able to, I think it would be really great if we were to, add part of the recommendation here that staff could report back with possible private commercial parking lot opportunities that could be used as alternative pickleball locations for outdoor use. And I'm hoping that I can put that motion on the floor to add.
Oh, second. Get it up on the screen, please.
Yeah, I can actually send it to, want me to send it to you? Wait, okay.
Any comments or questions on the amendment? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Back to the main motion. Councilor Gilliland, floor is still yours.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm really glad to see that. Through Ms. Mayor and Ms. McDougall, just out of curiosity, as far as some of the changes that, we can do with the paddle racks and Thomas Coates and Norman Weller, do we have an expectation that perhaps we can give the working group, the network itself, how quickly we could get the outdoor courts kind of up to snuff with some of the requests for this year? Do you have any idea that could be promising? I know it's preliminary and hasn't been solidified until April 25th, but you just give us some comfort knowing.
Go.
Through Mr. Mayor, I did ask Manager of Parks and Fleet, Sarah Teenkamp, regarding timing, because this does impact the acquisition of paddle racks. In anticipation of a favorable direction next week, we at least sourced where we could obtain the paddle racks from. Turnaround time doesn't seem to be too long. There were a couple other requests. I think it was a table and bench or picnic tables at Norm Weller. Other than that, certainly the cleanup and lines, if again, these motions are approved, lines being added to FORE, then they anticipate by the end of May, if not before, these things could be in place. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, I have a clarification to Councillor Gallo's original question regarding the shared time. If that's acceptable, may I answer?
I'll allow it.
Thank you. I apologize. I just felt bad because I realized as I'm reading through this, the McMahon site, McMahon property, originally had a shared pickleball court and had a pickleball lines on one of the tennis courts. That was a while back. It was resurfaced and it's now strictly tennis. The tennis program has grown. It would be difficult to add pickleball back to that site. So with that line was put in there that all other shared courts would go first come, first serve. It was that one in my mind when we were thinking about it. That's not an option anymore. So the only two properties that would be considered for shared are possibly FORE being added and Norm Weller, both of which we're proposing in option number 2 to have dedicated playing times. So there would be a start and a finish to when tennis starts and when pickleball starts. So there should be a little more clarification as to when, and we'd be promoting it, when you show up, you know you get to play tennis, or when you show up, you get to play pickleball. So I wanted to clarify that. That line should really have been edited out once I verified the McMahon property site. So that was confusing. I do apologize.
Thank you. Councillor Gallen?
Did you say Gilliland?
Yeah,
Okay,
Gilliland.
sorry, I thought you said Callow. Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall, just a curiosity question. I don't think I should have followed up with you earlier. Will there be an intention to put a paddle rack on Fleury Park so they could still have that same round robin effect?
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intention would be to add paddle racks wherever pickleball is offered,
That's fantastic.
dedicated and the shared sites.
Councillor?
That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. And thank you for your very speedy work on this. I'd like to note that I believe there are 15 tennis courts in Aurora, and the pickleball courts will only be marked on 6 of those.
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So if approved, Norm Weller has 2 lines shared. Fleury, depending on the motion approved, could have up to 4 lines. There'd be 6 shared. There are 6 dedicated courts for pickleball, 2 at Thomas Coates, 2 at Edward Coltham, and 2 at Trent.
Right.
Each of which have some maintenance considerations we will be looking at improving
Thank you.
in the near future.
Councillor?
Thank you for the maintenance. Yes, I was just trying to clarify that we're talking about 6 tennis courts out of 15. The question on using the ice surfaces, how is concrete for pickleball or for, let's leave it at that. How is concrete for pickleball?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously it's not the ideal court surface for a true pickleball program. They'd love to have certainly a more fluid or bounced surface. But it is an interim measure. A lot of municipalities are utilizing those as options, as alternatives, noting that it is also a short-term use. It's not the only option. We are only operating them for the summer months and then reverting back to either an indoor gymnasium space or if there's an outdoor space patrons can use. So it's short-term.
Councillor?
Might be a bit hard on the body. I like the idea of the competition. Thank you. That's a great idea. I'd like to acknowledge that Jane Snape is here in the audience. Well, I was going to say the only person in the audience, but and Jane has been trying for years to get the profile of pickleball raised and to get more access for the users. It predates the wonderful motion by Councillor Gilliland and Weiss. So I thank you for your stamina on this. I'd also like to, it's completely off topic, but I'd like to say hi to Mr. Coangelo. And thank him for sitting in, and also thank him for all of the work that he did with respect to our winter snow removal. And I know it was a hard job, and I thank him. Done.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the growing need for pickleball, all the benefits pickleball has to people of all ages. It's an inexpensive sport that's, has great health values for people of all ages. And, I see it, when I pass by Thomas Coates Park or, and I see the crowds there and people socializing and enjoying themselves. However, my concern is that I don't think the popularity of one should lead to potentially the demise of another sport. It's not necessarily going to be a demise of tennis, but tennis. I'm not sure what the traffic is like in Normuller Park, and if traffic in Normuller Park is, the usage is low for tennis, then by all means, let's maximize the usage and put in the lines to add pickleball. But I know for Thomas Coates and FORE, it's usually quite busy during normal daylight hours, and especially on weekends. And for younger players who are waiting, I see the intimidation in terms of when someone's playing tennis for a long time and won't get off the courts. I can only imagine what that would be like when you have more competition for these courts when you're adding pickleball. So that's my main concern. And, for those of us who are around with the Hallmark lands, and we had the soccer community and the baseball community, both very popular and worthwhile sports. I don't have to go through that again and have tennis versus pickleball. They're both great sports, and they both deserve their own playing areas. So in the long term, I'm looking forward to a long-term plan and a designated area or two for pickleball. But these temporary solutions, I can't buy into 1B or option 2 unless staff has done a thorough report on Normuller and the traffic is just not there. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall, has staff done any kind of observation or analysis of the usage for Normuller Park?
Ms. McDougall.
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. No, not yet, because the activity level hasn't begun. It's based on the notice of motion and the timing of the turnaround. We haven't started our tennis. It's only just started.
Okay.
Normuller is currently lined for both. Both patrons, no matter what time of day, could at this point show up and either play a game of pickleball or tennis. So I guess the one opportunity or benefit of providing dedicated court time and promote it that way is that exactly when you show up that you may run into other friends that will be able to play with you versus only 2 pickleball players and only 2 tennis. So it has its merit to go with a dedicated time, so at least to be promoted. And then if it's not, I'll call it disorganized or it has you have the opportunity, more potential to play because you've had fellow players to play with. Until we have a chance to see the summer happen, we will not have that analysis to back this is the right method or not. In the long run, sharing courts, even in now the consultants' feedback that we have for our Parks Master Plan, it is not ideal for either sport. It is not the long range plan. These were short-term suggestions for how we handle this coming summer. Just more of a trial. And as noted, if it doesn't work, if we get too many complaints, we could revert to the first come, first serve methodology. It was just an opportunity to give it as a test, a trial. And some patrons may appreciate it because then when they know they show up at 3 o'clock, they're going to see and play with potentially other fellow sports, whether it's pickleball or tennis. So at this point, I don't have data to verify this is necessarily the right move, but it's a suggestion. Other municipalities have implemented it.
Counselor?
Thank you. I thought that there might have been data just, when we were doing our analysis and research on Thomas Coates Park and having tennis courts there, I thought maybe we might at that time, like historical data, but we don't. I would not be in favor of this. It's great that we've added capacity in terms of in the short term while the rinks are not in use, but I would not be in favor of either option. But through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall, there are 2 pickleball courts on Edward Coltham Park that is almost always unused, like no one uses it. And my understanding is that it's because there are no fencing or boundaries. I'm thinking that if people really want to play pickleball and there's lack of facility, one would use that because, it's not like tennis ball where you hit the ball, you have to run 100 yards. It's a ball with holes in it. And it's not ideal, it's not convenient, but there's 2 right there. Can we not add temporary fencing for the season so we can add 2 full-time pickleball courts?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, from what I'm understanding, the feedback we've had from our pickleball users for both Edward Coltham and Trent, similar designs in courts. The fence is definitely one aspect that is concerning for that use for the site, as it's intermixed with open basketball court that's adjacent to it. But also we understand from the avid pickleballers that play, there's not a significant runoff or sufficient runoff at the end of the court. It's just the way the courts were designed when it was more low-key recreational pickup. Now that the popularity has advanced and the skill sets of participants have advanced, it's an aspect that we need to improve. So I don't think it's just simply adding a fence that will satisfy. We need to be looking at the structure of those 2 courts to ensure there is a proper runoff for a safe zone, safety drop off the back end of the courts. So temporary fence might be one option, but that will not entice them more.
Counselor?
And just as an additional comment on Norm Weller, some feedback that it does have, obviously there's why we've proposed it as an opportunity for pickleball and tennis. Ultimately, it has the access to parking. It has portable washrooms, although not ideal. It has a shade capability. It has its distance from residents. It's not adjacent. So subsequently, we feel it is a viable location for pickleball as a promoted site to try it. I don't know how popular it is for tennis until we do those data, data for you.
Yes.
Thank you. With the information I have, I'm still not convinced that this would be a good short-term solution. If this would be on a trial basis, I'm open to that because at least we can pull back after the time is over. I just don't like residents competing against residents for a scarce resource. And I don't want to solve a problem by creating another problem. And that's my concern. I value pickleball as a sport and recreation and the health values. I'm totally on board. It's just, I just don't want to create another problem. Residents against residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, second time.
Thank you. Just some questions based on what I've been hearing. If this moves forward, how many do we know how many hours of, let's say, tennis court time that would be lost if this is implemented? I don't see the times that we're allocating. So do we even know that through you, Mr. Mayor?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, I didn't actually do that collective time. However, our intent was to do a 3-hour block. So if it's from 9 to noon, noon to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, it would be in essence cut in half. If that's a simple methodology to help you understand the use or access to space.
So through you, cut in half for how many new courts? How many shared courts
Ms. McDougall?
that aren't existing?
So at the moment, we have Norm Weller. That's the only one that has shared based on our current complement. And that's where they would be proposed or potentially cut in half. Right now it's shared. So it depends on if it's a full day of tennis, interested parties, you might have had a full day, but what we're proposing is to share it. FORE right now is 100% tennis. FORE does not have any pickleball. Proposal here is to add pickleball to that site. Therefore, would definitely cut access in half.
Counselor?
And that is probably the most popular tennis facility in the town. I don't know, I'm having some second thoughts about this. The extent to which we're adding is an impact, and I don't know the usage on those, particularly those two facilities currently, because people are just starting to go out. Maybe last summer, this summer it certainly will be in full force, and we don't have an organized tennis community outside of McMahon and the tennis community there, but they're not the ones that are using this for the most part. Most of the people, the vast majority of tennis players are recreational. They just show up. And so the impact to them, I'm predicting is going to be pretty significant because of the amount of courts that we're removing that they would normally have access to. It speaks to the height of the nets, and that are we proposing these shared, Mr. Mayor, courts, depending on the usage, will be raised and lowered accordingly?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, that is another rationale for why shared doesn't always work for either sport. There are methods to tighten or pull down by adding tape, but it is not a service level where we would be purposely going out every few hours to raise and lower the net. The pickleballers have tended to play with the tennis height.
Counselor?
Okay, so we're leaving them at the tennis height. This particular location that Councillor Kim was referring to, and the runoff that you mentioned through, Mr. Mayor, it was designed after Thomas Coates, correct?
Ms. McDougall?
I apologize. I don't have the date of implementation for Cotham or Trent. I don't have.
Could we
it.
get those for next
I
week?
could for next
Okay.
week for
And
sure. Get you the time.
Ultimately, I suspect Thomas Coates is a popularly sized court. Were they designed equally? Or why would we have not have designed that one if it came after? I suspect it came after, but maybe I'm wrong, to be the correct size.
I guess, Ms. McDougall, if you can get that for next
Through
week.
Mr. Mayor, I'll find out.
Okay. Counselor?
And also perhaps a better understanding of the loss of tennis hours if this moves forward. That would be very helpful to me.
Okay.
And again, it's very hard because there isn't an organized tennis group that we could rely on other than McMahon that isn't reflective of any of this. Some of them might be playing on this, but most of them, I was part of I know them. I was part of that for many years. So we don't have anyone to reach out to better understand the impact that this might have.
Thank you. Counselor Reese, second time.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate the concerns that Councillor Kim has regarding conflict. I know as well as anybody about the difference between soccer and rugby and baseball and competing interests in sport in this community, and it's all related to facility availability and a lot of people wanting to do a lot of things. So I thank him for those comments. But in the 3 meetings that we've had with the pickleball people, and we've had tennis people in there, they have identified immediately that the best practices here is for dedicated courts. We're just not there yet. I hope we will be there. And I think this is a short-term solution in order to find out where we are. And when I hear that we're going to be looking at this on a complaint driven method, I wonder if there's another way we can do to try to identify the number of people that are playing and do some metrics, because if you can't measure it, you really can't manage it very well. So, and these solutions that Mrs. McDougall has proposed here has actually come out of the pickleball users and some tennis people there, because nobody wants that conflict. We don't want to set this up for failure at all. And so I think it's a reasonable compromise, but it's not perfect. So I want to thank her again for doing the work and listening, as she was intent in that. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. You know, I have to say, I didn't even know that the Normweller courts were there. They're so far in. I would think that parking is not that great for them. It's more of a community use. I think probably that's a good place to try. I don't know how well they're used, but they're certainly relatively hidden unless you're right in the community and you know about them. I also, I mean, I grew up with tennis courts. I'm sure that there are going to be some tennis players who are not happy. But I think, as Councillor Weiss said, it's worth a try. Let's see how it goes. And hopefully it will work out, because there are a lot of pickleball players in town, and we want to try and accommodate them. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. Just want to apologize because I feel like you guys were all in those working group meetings. So I feel like everybody should know the answers to this already. There was a lot that was put into it, to Councillor Weiss, what he was saying, collaborating with everybody, including some tennis players. And it was really interesting because we had a huge map of Aurora. We had stickies in all the parks. We did a whole SWOT analysis. We had big, huge pieces of paper, and we did a whole exercise where what's the pros and cons of each current tennis court, or sorry, pickleball / tennis court that we're using now. And then we also asked, like, why aren't you using these, and what are some of the improvements? And I'm more than happy to share this information that we did provide with staff, just to give you some comfort in some of those options. As far as what was being presented today, definitely, I think it's certainly the best outcome that we could have asked for to get us through this time. As far as like the other ones, Edlam, Coatlam Park, and Trent, they do pose a lot of maintenance issues, and that was one of the things that we were trying to push. However, with budgetary restrictions and short-term fixes, it's just not possible, at least at this time, because fencing wouldn't necessarily work right away, but also there's drainage issues and some safety aspects to it with a drop off. So there's quite a few things. I think at the time that it was designed, it wasn't necessarily designed maybe with the best intention, because pickleball was kind of not on the radar the way it is now. And obviously through this process, we discovered that McMahon, we just don't utilize those courts for pickleball anymore. So slowly but surely, we discovered that the majority of pickleballers were really only using 2 courts, and then Ryan says there was only 2 outdoor courts in all of Aurora, despite the inventory that we've provided. And through this assessment and some of the court sharing and making those necessary improvements at Norman Weller, I think certainly is going to increase that stock, and then identify where we can do better with the current ones we have, and then maybe expand somewhere else. So I do think it's a really good start for this year, and hopefully some good things come out of it. And this will be a good opportunity to collect some data, and hopefully we'll get some more pickleballers out there. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, second time.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall. I heard that we're collecting data of what's going on this year. So is this just temporary for this year, or is this ongoing? Should no long-term plan be developed for 2024 season?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, the proposal would be for short term, just this summer, ultimately using it as a trial period to see how it
Okay, so
goes. If it's successful or minimal disruption, it might be something we want to keep going. Ultimately, the long range plan, and I say long range because the reality is to create a new court, 6-court recommendation like it is in the master plan. It's not something necessarily that may be happening within a year, even it may be a year and a half or 2 years before that can come on board. So managing what stock of pickleball opportunities, we may want to still consider this a year from now, depending on how it goes, but it'll sort of an evaluation period this summer.
Counselor?
Thank you. And you know, I've regardless of how of the outcome of this vote, it's going to be, I guess, a win-win in a way, in that for as many people who'll be unhappy, just as many will be happy about the results. So I think the net happiness rating will probably be neutral. So for me, it's net neutral. I'm just reflecting on just last month when we had a delegate, the tennis instructor, who booked tennis court time, and the main reason why we declined for the times that he requested is because we felt that there was insufficient time for usage for tennis players. So now we're just going back around and taking away tennis time for another sport. I don't see, from a usage perspective, any difference here. And I think if we were consistent with how we voted for that tennis instructor, by not allowing him to have the time that he requested, we're actually going against that by voting in favor to take away some tennis space. I'm also reminded of a few years ago when we were going around making short-term solutions for town park parking. If you recall, we had probably 2 or 3 different solutions, and they didn't work largely. And so I just don't want to have a short-term solution out of haste and create conflicts, and it comes back to us again. And I hope, and for something like this, I suspect it's not going to be likely that we're going to have fire and brimstone over recreational activity, but to have as Councillor Gallo said, tennis players who do not have an organized voice. If we go ahead with this, then I hope that staff will be their voice, and that there are going to be strong metrics in terms of that's going to guide us in making the proper choice or decision for 2024. Because conflicts that happen at 8 a.m, 12 noon on a Saturday, or 9 p.m. at night when the lights are on, staff are not always going to be around to observe what happens. And so so those are the reasons why I'm kind of hesitant to vote in favor of this, and I'm still voting not in favor of this. But again, if it moves ahead, then it'll be net neutral. But I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, which one? You're in favor? It passes. Health break. All right, council, let's get back to it. Okay, council 9.3, community partnership grant program policy approval. Recommendations that report number CMS 23-013 be received. 2, that the community partnership grant policy attachment 1 be approved, and 3, that the town's existing corporate sponsorship policy be repealed. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Weiss, seconder. Councillor Gallo, thank you. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Weiss?
One, because I'm familiar with these grants, thankfully. The only thing that I wonder about, and people may not like it, who are volunteer and charities, because they're always busy with other things and they're quite happy to get a grant. But I was wondering about the consideration of some kind of impact assessment of the money that we receive, that we give people. So if we give 5,000 or 2,000 to someone, we make an assumption that they're using it in a proper way, but we don't have any, I don't, at least in here, it doesn't say that we should be asking for some kind of an impact or some kind of an assessment of that. So, and I don't want it to be too onerous, but at least it'd be great to have a report back that said, we used the money for this, that. I'm not asking for an audit. I just think there's got to be something as a follow-up to it, so we know where our money went.
Mr. Rose, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I apologize where we didn't maybe stress it enough in the report, but there is a final report that every recipient has to submit. And if they don't submit that and it doesn't meet sort of that criteria that we're looking for, and if they haven't shown that they spent the money as they indicated they would, then they will become ineligible for funding, or, we may just consider, reducing their funding in the future. But everyone has to submit that final report to be eligible for future funding. And so what we'll do is, and there'll be metrics that we'll ask for in terms of attendance, we'll ask about impact, tie-ins with the corporate strategic plan. And then with that information on a biannual basis, we'll come back to council and report on those findings.
Great stuff. Thanks. That's all I wanted to know, was just some deliverables that were on it. So great.
Thank you. Seeing any others, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. 9.4, approval of capital project number 72478, Sports Dome Air Conditioning. Recommendation is that report number CMS 23-012 be received. 2, that the condition on the approval total of 155,000 in capital budget authority for capital project number 72478, Sports Dome Air Conditioning be lifted and the project proceed. And 3, that 40,000 in previously approved budget authority and its associated funding be transferred from project number 72460, Aurora Sports Dome retrofit, to project number 72478, Sports Dome Air Conditioning. Someone like to move the recommendation? No. Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Gallo. Seconder. Councilor Gardner, thank you. Comments or questions on this? Councilor Gallo.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to having air conditioning in the dome, but I do want to go through some issues that I had with how this came about. I'll just read some stuff from the report and then some stuff from the opinion letter from the engineer. It says a report prepared prior to the purchase indicated the air conditioning equipment could be reinstated and some additional components would need to be purchased, installed to provide the dome with air conditioning. However, upon further investigation, the manufacturer of the unit confirmed the existing coil was not suitable for reuse. Under the analysis, it states that based on the review of the opinion letter, the town received a letter of opinion that provided some general recommendations. It should be noted that the letter contained a disclaimer, as there was little information available at the time of the site review. I'll just repeat that. There was little information at the time of the site review. the report prepared prior to the purchase indicated the coil could be reinstated and the associated cooling equipment purchased installed to provide the dome with air conditioning. A portion of the project 72460 40,000 was to reinstall the coil. However, upon further investigation, the manufacturer of the unit confirmed the existing coil was not suitable for reuse, as it was designed to be used in conjunction with a chilled water system. I just want to read a portion of the opinion letter that we got, and I'll just repeat that it says, there was a letter that contained a disclaimer as there was little information available at the time of the site review. It says, it was noted that there's no cooling currently installed. Again, this is a letter from an engineer advising us on the status of the dome prior to purchasing. It was also noted that there's no cooling currently installed within the unit. For this, it is to be reinstated several times, would need to be addressed. Primarily, the location of the condensing unit. Based on the unit's airflow, we expect the condensing unit and associated coil to be in the range of 60 tons, 720 mph worth of cooling. Condensing units would have to be remotely located and refrigerant piping run to the unit, likely below grade, as there is currently no space in the existing fenced-in area. The condensing units would require a structural pad and associated fence, as well as a trench to carry multiple line sets. A minimum of 2 stages of cooling would be required. Consideration also has to be given to upsizing the main blower to accommodate the additional pressure loss by adding in the cooling units. An additional review would be required to determine that cooling system could be tied into the existing electrical system, or if any incoming service upgrade would be required to handle the additional load of the compressors on the condensing units. Overall, with the structural and mechanical items taken into consideration, the town of Aurora could expect a cooling upgrade to the MUA to be in the range of $25,000 to $30,000. I'd suggest that that does not equal that there was little information available at the time of the site review. It suggests that there's quite a bit of information that was there. And just to be clear, in the background, it says X Engineering visited the above mentioned site on December 6, 2019 with representatives X and X of the town of Aurora with a representative of the owner operator of the sports dome. The purpose of the site visit was to ascertain an understanding of the existing space mechanical systems and the approximation of the existing design suitability. X Engineering would also provide comments on the equipment condition, capacity, life expectancy of the equipment, expected replacement times, and any code-related issues which would have to be addressed during the eventual system replacement or major repair during the next 10 to 15 years. The letter that's referenced, the disclaimer, I'd like to read it if I could, so we have a good understanding, although I only have 10 seconds left.
GC.
Oh, great. The comments made herein are of the opinion of the engineer staff of X Engineering and are not intended to be used for any design purposes. These comments are made based on a non-destructive visual inspection only. No drawings or maintenance information was available at the time of the authority authoring of this letter. X Engineering accepts no responsibility whatsoever for damages suffered by any third party resulting from the use of this letter without our express written permission. Decisions made or actions taken as a result of the information contained in this document shall be the responsibility of the parties directly involved in the decision and or actions. So yeah, there's a bit of a disclaimer there, but when we hire consultants, I suspect we have to rely on their opinion to some extent. Otherwise, what are we doing that for? And when a consultant is telling us everything that I read to you, what's required, they all visited. There was at least 6 people that visited the site to inspect it, gave us a price, $25,000 to $30,000. And I based my decision on moving forward to purchase the dome. At least one component of it was that, in addition to many other things. Perhaps that was an insignificant part of my decision making, And we come to budget and it's nearly 4 or 5 times that. And the rationale is that the power supply isn't significant enough to accommodate that type of cooling system. Even though the engineer had told us that we should really look at to see whether or not we have the capacity in order to do that. All of this is to say that I'm not taking this lightly, even though it's not a lot of money. But as we all, protest, we take taxpayers' money pretty seriously. And notwithstanding the fact that these funds would be taken out of reserve that is replenished based on income generated from the dome. So yeah, not a direct hit on the tax base, but as you say, often there's only one taxpayer and ultimately they pay. I'm okay with moving forward because we don't have much of a choice. But I would like to add a clause to this, and that's basically to have a legal opinion to whether or not there's any recourse to either, there's 2 things that would have happened. Either that consultant gave us bad information and they should have given us proper information so that we can budget properly, or we made an error. But I'd like to tick off the first one, and that's to have a professional legal opinion, review all of this and give us in closed session an understanding of whether there's a chance to go after them. Because we all take it serious. And if I've been giving bad advice and I paid for that bad advice from a professional engineer and I acted on it in error, well, someone has to be responsible. So I'd like to add that to the clause. I think we should move forward because we don't have a choice. And I think it's a good thing that has air conditioning, but I don't want to leave it. It's not a lot of money. I spent a lot of time, as you know, in closed session, how much time I spent on this. And we all don't take it lightly when we're given information that's not accurate, we act on it and taxpayers end up paying. And I can't sit here in good conscience and do nothing about it.
Did you get that? Kind of. You're working on it? We'll put something up. So I'll get Councillor Gardner to second that amendment. Okay. Everyone gets the gist. So while we're working on the wording, we'll get it up, but everyone gets the gist of the amendment. Okay. Any comments or questions on the amendment? Otherwise, I'm going to call a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? That carries back to the main motion. Any other comments or questions on this one while we wait for this entire motion to be put up on the screen? The only thing I'll ask, Councillor Gallo, are when you speak of legal advice, you're talking about our own solicitor, or are you talking about going to external? That's the only thing I want to specialize. Go ahead.
I would prefer external that's specialized in this.
Okay. Would you like it to come back with a cost first of them looking into it before we proceed?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make, because
I don't want to make it onerous and more tax
I
dollars
agree.
towards a certain
Exactly.
end.
And I know that's how you feel. And that's why I'm asking you, right? I'm sure you don't want to, and I don't think any of us want to spend more money above and beyond. But if it's external that you want, then maybe, how about we just leave it as what it's going to be put up there. Our solicitor will come into close, give us an explanation. Maybe they can give us a cost if we do go to external, and then we can go from there. Does that work? Okay. So that's the clause. Are you good with that? That's what we just approved. Are you good with that wording? Yeah? Okay. All right. So we're back to the main motion as amended. Okay. Councillor Gardner, did you have comment to the main motion as amended?
Including this.
Yes.
I think this is really important because I think I don't know what the word is, but we can use what we learned from this for our future dealings with consultants. And it's what Councillor Gallo is saying is very important. It's not the amount of money, although I wouldn't mind having the amount of money, the difference, but it's just the right thing to do. So I'm glad that the amendment passed. And I think if we have to go to outside legal, I can't imagine it would be that much money. It might be that much money, our lawyer says, but maybe this is a good learning experience for the future. So I look forward to seeing the cost.
Thank you. Anyone else? Might as well call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 9.5, Aurora Appeal Tribunal and Property Standards Committee Remuneration. Recommendations that report number CS 23-027 be received. 2, that the Aurora Appeal Tribunal and Property Standards Committee members be provided remuneration in the amount of $80 per meeting. And 3, that the attached terms of reference for the Aurora Appeal Tribunal and Property Standards Committee be approved. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Weiss.
Yeah, it may just be, I'm a newbie, but what has been done before? Is this a new thing that we're doing? Is this a raise? Is it what's different about this than last year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is a new thing. It's not technically a raise. We, as a quasi judicial committee, they do make decisions, right, that have binding effect on the people who are before them. And it's we realized actually when we were reviewing the committee structure going into this year that across the board in the region that most similar appeal tribunals receive remuneration for the members. And so we meant to bring it when the original committee report came. It's a bit of an oversight, so we just kind of cleaned that up.
Yeah, and I saw the comparatives, and so I'm interested in what's there, and I thank you for doing all that comparatives. I just had no context on how to approve something like this, and I certainly don't know the value of a per meeting. So I'm thankful for the information that you've provided. Thank you.
They're 4 hours long. It's not that much. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. And just for clarity, I think it's because we split the two committees because it used to be lumped into one, correct? And they both kind of were on both.
Mr. Clark.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Councillor.
Perfect. That's all. And I see that we went in line with Newmarket as our median. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Notices deal with next week. No regional report. New business. Councillor Weiss.
Well, nothing. I was going to make a comment about the volunteer week, but it's
That's
already
PSAs. We'll get to that.
been done.
That's right.
Okay.
Councillor Gilliland, new business.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Colangelo. Obviously, this is the time of year when the grass is starting to grow and those emails are trickling in about the damage that was made by snow blades on lawns. And there was some, I guess, conflicting maintenance work done between sweeping and repairs done to the grass and so forth. I imagine this probably won't be the first time it happens. And I know you're trying your best to coordinate, but I was maybe hoping that you could shed some light on, where operations is with that.
Mr. Colangelo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I had a conversation with Dan Nacarado, our roads and traffic supervisor. He explained that we're trying to get ahead of the street sweeping by sweeping the sidewalks. And yes, we're trying to stay out of the areas that the contractor is responsible for repairing. So as you can imagine, there's multiple and hundreds of locations all over town. So it's difficult to coordinate where they are and where we're going to be. We're doing our best. The brooms are just as wide as the sidewalk. So yes, as they rotate, they do take away some of the topsoil and topsoil and seeds that have been placed there, but we will go back and add more if we've taken it out.
Councillor.
Thank you. And is there like an email or something that you could provide, or is there a point of contact that residents could report this to? So at least it kind of funnels into one place.
Mr. Colangelo.
Through you, Mr. Barrett, it'd be either myself or Dan Nacarado.
Councillor.
Operations.
You want the public to email you directly? Or is there a certain operations at aurora.ca or?
Mr. Colangelo.
Well, we do have customer service who can take the call and report it to us, or if there's a lot of residents in town that have my email address already and so I don't mind either way.
All right, then,
Counselor?
very, very well. All right, thank you.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you. This is a generic question to Ms. Van Leeuwen. When we have, let's say, a small subdivision that doesn't find it has enough parking, and they use other municipal residential streets to park their cars, say overnight, and that impacts that particular street that they're using, it decreases the use for the residents who actually live on that street. So what is the best way to go about, we can't prevent it, but once it happens, what's the best way to ensure that those spots are left for the residents who actually live on the street?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if they're not in violation of our parking bylaw, there's no action that we can take. And I know there has been some issues raised regarding residents parking on streets for long periods of time over the weekend, like renters and things like that. And like I said, if they're not in violation, there's no action we can take. Our parking bylaw, we only have fines for people who park longer than 24 hours if there's no other parking violations. So they can park on any street for at least 24 hours if there's no other parking bylaw or restriction. And in the past, we have come forward with recommendations that we look at a 3-hour parking limit on residential streets, as that is standard across many municipalities, 3-hour parking limits.
Councilor?
Thank you. So the residents from whatever street is being impacted could be in touch with the town or councillor and say, can you look at my street and see if we can put a 3-hour limit on it?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would require a bylaw amendment. And for 2024, we do have a capital project to do a town-wide parking strategy. And part of that will include possibly implementing a 3-hour parking limit on residential streets. We have come forward with that many, many years ago, but it was not approved.
Councilor?
Thank you. I don't think that this particular issue will wait until 2024. So through me, they could be in touch with you and ask to look into the situation for them.
Yeah. Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, or you could come forward with a notice of motion for us to review our parking bylaw, which would go through our traffic analyst under Marco's department.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that sounds like it would take a long time, and the residents that I've spoken to are extremely frustrated at this point. So maybe I think if there was a faster solution, it would be better.
Well, Councilor, the only way that it would change is for us to make a change to the bylaw sitting at this table. It's the only way for it to be changed.
So I would have to bring a motion
Yeah.
to the table for
could
a
not-
particular street.
Staff
Okay.
could not just change it
No.
for a particular street without our direction.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? New business?
I don't know if it's new business, but I'll be sorry to not see Ms. Van Leeuwen's face sitting over there in the very near future.
You'll be here next week, right? Yeah, okay. Just making sure. I was like, did I miss it? I
hope
was like, did I
so.
miss something? Did I miss the memo? Councilor Gallo, new business?
Thank you. I just wanted an update on my motion for September 2nd, and I'll read it. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that staff report back to council at its earliest convenient, perhaps I shouldn't have chose those words, and include in a report, A, number of retail cannabis stores in Aurora, B, a full financial accounting of the town, what the town has received directly or indirectly as a result of opting in, and C, all correspondence issued by staff to the AGCO after receiving a notice of new cannabis retail store in Aurora. So September 2nd, 7 months ago. Just wanted to see what the status of that is.
Anyone have an update? Mr. Romano, you have an update on that motion? Yeah. That is you, Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Serio. I'll look into that tomorrow morning, Council Gallo, and provide an update. We'll work on a report for council as soon as possible.
Councillor? I got a few. Is that it? Thank you. Councillor Kemp, new business? Public service announcement. Yeah, well, let's get your mic on. Go ahead.
I just want to remind council and the public about the Run for South Lake on April 30th. I haven't missed a year, I don't think, in the last many years. I forgot about it for the last several weeks until I got a reminder today. So I hope no one else forgets on April 30th.
Thank you. I know I'm not going to be trying to chase you down because I know you're going to beat me anyway. So that. Councilor, no PSA? No. Councilor Gardner, PSA?
I would just like to say it was really a wonderful season to have Easter and Passover and Ramadan and Orthodox Easter all kind of fitting so closely together this year.
A lot of people eating food. Or not eating food. Yes, yes, yes. Councilor Gilliland, public service announcement. No. Councilor Reese, nothing. Okay. I think I got enough. I'll let it go. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Gardner, Councilor Reese, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.